Welcome to Madonna Estate. Those of you that have been here tasting before, and some of you out there have, because you joined our wine club, welcome back. Those who haven't been here before and chose to go to taste our wine on a virtual tasting, welcome to you too. So the packet that you received had 5 wines, the wines you received see right here. We have a Chardonnay, we have a Pinot Noir, a Merlot, a Dolcetto, and a Cabernet Sauvignon. And you also received an opener, this funny looking thing right here. This is called a twist up or an asso, there's different names for it. A lot of people have tried to use it and ended up pushing a cork in a bottle and threw it in a drawer and never used it again. So I'm going to show you how to do that first of all. So there's also, you received in your packet a tasting menu. So we're going to go through all of these wines. We may split it up for you, for those who don't want to open all 5 wines. But we're going to start with our Chardonnay and at least Pinot Noir right now too. So you got that, you got the opener, you got the foil cutter. And then for a little something different at the very end, I ask you to have some salt ready. I'm sure you're curious about that, so I'm not going to say anything about that till we get to it. So first of all, let me demonstrate how to open this bottle. Take the foil cutter. And basically, it's got little wheels in it. So you want to press down on that, and it actually cuts the foil. So this is how this little guy works. You'll notice there's 2 prongs. There's a long one and a short one. So you're going to put the long one in first, and just kind of work it in gently. And then as you do, then pull the second one, the shorter one in, and put that in just gently. Now, this is where a lot of people get confused. If you push it straight down, the cork goes in the bottle, that's when you don't use it again. So we're going to just rock it back and forth, like so, very gently. And then gently pull up and twist, hence the name twist up. And the cork comes right out. Now, this is a very important tool to keep in your drawer at home, because if you've ever had an older bottle of wine, say 10 years old or more, the cork dries out. No matter how well you try to store your wine, sometimes it's dry out. And if you put a corkscrew in it, it will break completely apart. This tool allows you to pull that cork out without damaging the cork. Right this way. So this is our cellar, or as we call it, our barrel room. This is where we actually age our wine in the barrels. A little bit about Madonna Estate. We are a family-owned winery. This family started making wine in Napa Valley in 1922, and we're in our 4th generation today. We're a relatively small winery. We do between 8,000 to 10,000 cases a year, and we don't distribute. And that's very important, because as you taste our wines today, if you'd like to purchase them, you can only get it through the winery. And I put a little coupon in your package that you can go on our website or give us a call and purchase wine that way. And almost everything that we produce is from our own vineyard. We have 160 acres, of which about 120 are planted right here in the Carneros area of Napa Valley. So the vineyard's about a mile and a half away. So all the grapes come over here, everything's processed here, it's bottled here, and it's aged here. There's a couple of unique things about our vineyard. First of all, we're dry farmers, which means once we train the new plants, I know that's an unusual word to use, but once you train the new plants how to find the water table below, we stop watering for the next 40 years. Secondly, we're organic farmers, which means no chemicals. We are certified organic, no pesticides, no artificial stimulants in the soil, no chemicals whatsoever. So a lot of people are actually looking for wines like that. Ours is one of those wines. So about the barrels, we use strictly French oak, and the oak barrels are pretty expensive. A brand new oak barrel starts anywhere from $1,050 to $1,150, and they're good for about 5 uses. Now that's not necessarily 5 years, because a wine may stay in a barrel up to 24 months. So you get about a 7 to 10 years lifespan out of the barrel. And if you look way in the back there, you'll see our fermentation tanks. That's what happens with the grapes before they go into the barrel. The grapes come in by the ton, they're pumped into the barrel. That's when we add yeast. Yeast converts sugar to alcohol. And the longer you let the yeast do its job, the drier the wine's going to be. A dry wine basically means that there's no sugar left, that the yeast has converted all the sugar to alcohol. Now, if we want a slightly sweet wine, like some of you enjoy, we would stop that fermentation process just a little bit early, where we have what's called residual sugar or some leftover sugar from the actual grape. Most of our wines are dry. The ones you're tasting today are all going to be dry. So, speaking of tastings, let's go back in and taste some of our wine. Okay, so we're back in the tasting room. We're going to taste some wine, but I did briefly mention about the family and the generations. You may be able to see some of the generations here behind me. So I'm going to switch over to Brett and Taylor for a few minutes and let them get a little bit deeper into the history, and I'll have the wines ready when you get back.
Hi, I'm Taylor Bartolucci.
And I'm Brett Bartolucci.
And we are the 4th generation family members of Madonna Estate.
We are. And we're actually virtually joining you here from my family home, our family home. We are related.
When did I get kicked out of the family?
We are related. I believe it said on 23andMe we're related, right?
It did.
Okay.
There's no denying that.
Well, despite the fact that we don't look anything alike, we are related. And we have, what have we been doing?
We have been surviving.
Right? Like many of you.
Yes.
But importantly, I'll get back to it. We're getting out of character here. We have been growing grapes and making wine in Napa since 1922. Notably, we're actually the second oldest family still making growing grapes and making wine in Napa Valley.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, and nobody else in the valley can say that. So that's one of our cool fun facts that we like to tell everybody who comes on a tour with us. And while you can't be here in person with us, we're very happy to be here virtually with all of you. If you were in our tasting room, you would have a list in front of you that named all of the wines that we produce, but luckily, we can list those wines off for you.
Can we?
Possibly.
Okay.
We haven't been drinking yet or tasting anything yet, so hopefully we'll get through it. But we do produce a Pinot Grigio and a Chardonnay. Those are our non-sweet white wines, if that's the technical way I can lump those two together. Moving into our reds, we make a Pinot Noir, Due Ragazzi, which is a Pinot Noir reserve wine. Due Ragazzi means two girls in Italian, and our parents, here we go, we're splitting our parents again. Our parents produced that wine and named it after us as a homage to the two of us. We also produce a Merlot, a Barbera, a Dolcetto, a Cabernet Sauvignon, a Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon, and then right now at its special release is a Cabernet Franc. We do purchase the fruit for that as well as our Barbera. So those are not grown here on our estate, organically grown vineyard. And then into the sweet wines, we make a Gewürztraminer and a Muscat Canelli. We do also have a Pinot Rosetto, which is a rosé made from Pinot Noir fruit. Did I miss any varietal there?
I don't believe you did.
I think we got it. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the vineyard?
Sure. So we have 160 acres here in Carneros. The most notable points of Carneros are we're about on the average 10 degrees cooler than the upper Napa Valley. So this area is perfect for Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. You can't see the wind whipping behind us, or maybe you can, but in the afternoon, we have the cool breezes that come in the morning. In the afternoon, we get also the fog in the morning and the breezes. We like to call them the bucolic windswept breezes, but sometimes they can be quite strong. But what it does is it cools the area and allows for even ripening and a little bit longer hang time out in our vineyards, so the flavors can ripen and be perfect at the time that we do harvest. A lot of people ask, well, when do you harvest? We harvest once a year in early September, mid-September, and that goes until about October, mid to late October.
Yes, and a fun fact about, I'm all about fun facts.
Yes.
Fun fact about this harvest is it is going to be our father's 50th harvest. 50. So he's incredible. We tell him he's incredible all the time, but truly it's amazing to have this legacy here in our family. And in fact, in 2022, it will be our family's 100th year in the wine industry, which is
amazing, really.
Very amazing.
Not many people can say they've weathered any storm through 100 years of any business, let alone winemaking.
And truly, it's any storm right now. Whoever would have thought we would be in our parents' living room recording a video for you all.
And just to note, we all don't live in the same home. Although we do spend a lot of time together. Taylor and I do have separate homes. And we have fifth generations. I have a teenager, which is a lot of fun. And Taylor has two little ones. So
yeah, I have a 2-year-old son and a 1-year-old daughter. So we are very busy around here.
And maybe potentially they'll find an interest in the vineyard someday too. So we never know. We're raising little farmers, perhaps.
That is very true. Well, I think they're probably getting thirsty right about now. So I think we should turn them back over to Bob and enjoy your tasting.
Enjoy, and thank you so much for supporting our family. We really appreciate it.
Can't wait to see you in the tasting room soon. Bye.
Bye.
Now we're going to get into tasting some wine. Once again, I'm going to refer back to the menu. So there's a reason that we have this menu in this particular order that it's in. So we go from the lightest wine, which today is going to be our Chardonnay, to the heaviest, which is going to be our Cabernet Sauvignon. So we're going to start with the Chardonnay. So when you taste wine, and do this even if you're not doing a tasting at home, if you're just having wine, you always want to pour just a little bit into your glass because you want to check to make sure that it is good. If you look at the color of a Chardonnay, it should be pale gold. If it has kind of a brownish tint, that's your first clue. And then you smell it, and if you don't get a fresh fruit flavor, then something's wrong with it. Just take it back. So, you notice I'm swirling the wine. Now there's a reason. I'm not trying to be fancy. The reason I'm doing this is because this bottle was just open. So it needs to open up, it needs to breathe. We need to let air into the wine to release the aromas and the flavors. Secondly, what you want to do is after the wine is in your glass, give it a swirl, hold it up to the light. You probably can't see it, but you can see it in your own glass. If you look right above the wine level, you'll see some liquids just making its way down back to the wine. So there's a term for that. Those are called legs. In Spain, they're called fingers. We call them legs here. And what that is the alcohol separating from the wine. When you smell your wine, there's actually a right way and a wrong way. If you take your wine and you put your nose at the bottom like this and smell, you're going to actually smell the alcohol. You're not going to get the true flavor of the wine. So what you want to do is tilt the glass and put your nose at the very top, like that, and smell, then you're going to get the fruit. What you're doing is you're trying to identify different fruit flavors, which is another item I should bring up, because you hear people describe wines as a matter of fact, this Chardonnay, you may hear apple or pear or tropical fruit. A lot of people go, at what point did you put those fruits in the wine? Well, of course, there's nothing in here but grapes. So the reason we're using those terms is to help you identify what the wine tastes like. It should be phrased, they have characteristics of apple, have characteristics of tropical fruit, or maybe pear. There's nothing, once again, there's nothing in it but grape. As you taste, you want to actually slurp it and bring some air into your mouth with it. And another thing to note too, once you first taste this wine, now before you sat down to do your tasting today, you may have had coffee, you may have had some gum, you may have something in your mouth. So that's still in your palate. So what you want to do is take 2 or 3 very small sips, And you'll notice each time you take a sip, the wine starts tasting differently until you get to that third or fourth sip, and you'll notice you'll really pick up what this wine is supposed to taste like. And that holds true for each time we go from one wine to the other as well. Once we open and taste the Pinot Noir, you're still going to have the Chardonnay on your palate. So you want to do this each time. All right, so I'm going to taste a little. It's a good Chardonnay. The difference between this Chardonnay and most what we call the Napa style Chardonnays is most of the Napa Chardonnays are almost overly oaked, overly buttery. You get a butter popcorn flavor. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. If you like that, that's fine. But ours is a little unique because, remember the barrels we looked at? So half of this wine was aged for 9 months in a neutral oak barrel, which means it's been used a couple of times. And the other half, the 9 months, the other half was in a stainless steel. And at the end, we combine them together. So you get stainless steel and you get oak, and it just makes a really nice, crisper Chardonnay. Okay. And by the way, we've got 5 wines here. I don't know how many people you have tasting, but we may not expect you to open all 5 bottles. So these tasters are going to be segmented, and you'll be able to taste a couple, stop, or if you want to go through the whole tasting at once, you can do that too. So, okay. You can tell by the color that it's nice and bright. Once again, hold it up to the light, check the legs, smell. Beautiful. I'm going to give it time to breathe. So, Pinot Noir. Here at Madonna Estate, we're known for our Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, particularly because we're in an area of Napa called the Carneros AVA, which stands for American Viticultural Area. We're closest to the San Pablo Bay. We're about 2 miles from the San Pablo Bay, and we get the cool breezes that come in off of the water and keep this whole area very comfortable in the summertime. And the reason why we plant Chardonnay and Chardonnay and Pinot Noir down here is because those two grapes have a very thin skin. And if you tried to plant them up valley, where by the way, each mile you go up valley, it gets 1 degree hotter. So as in the July 15th, it may be a comfortable 80 to 85 degrees here. 20 miles up valley could be 100. So that's too hot to plant these grapes. The skins would actually blister and burst. So thin skins, cooler climate. Willamette Valley of Oregon grows a lot of Pinot Noir there because their growing conditions are very similar to ours. Also because of the thin skin on the Pinot Noir, it doesn't take very well to criticism. So, sorry. Okay, so swirl again, smell, you know how to smell now, and then go ahead and taste. So on this one, you're going to get kind of an earthy, there you go with another term, earthy, kind of mushroomy. There's no dirt and there's no mushroom in this wine. So that's just a characteristic of the wine. And then you're going to get a lighter fruit, maybe some blueberry or a little bit of raspberry flavor in that. But your palate's different than mine. Maybe you pick up something else that I don't. This wine I call a very versatile wine. By that I mean it's easy to drink on its own, or it pairs with just about any kind of food. We saw more Pinot Noir the day before Thanksgiving than any other time of the year because of its versatility. We've always been told or taught white wine with fish or chicken, red wine with red meat. So those are just guidelines anymore. Believe me, the wine police are not going to knock on your door if you have Chardonnay with your steak. If it tastes good to you, then do it. And the reason for the versatility also to drink on its own is because of the tannins. Tannins are the natural antioxidants in red wines that are found in the skins of the red grapes. They give you that dry sensation on your tongue. Because this particular varietal of grape, the Pinot Noir, has a thin skin, there's less tannin. So you don't get that dryness, it's easy to drink. It's one of the wines if you go out to a bar and you don't really know what to order for wine, you're pretty safe about ordering a Pinot Noir. Okay. So let's sip and smell and taste. We're now going to move on to our third wine. This is a Merlot. So Merlot again it's a lighter wine. Once again, we're going by the strength of the wine, if you will, the body, the fuller body. So Merlot is it's not much heavier than the Pinot Noir, but a little fruitier, a little richer, and a little bit more flavor. The same routine each time. It's a good idea to do this for about 10 seconds. If you have some gadgets at home, you may have an item called a venturi. It's a little device that you put over the glass and pour a freshly opened bottle of wine, which will actually swirl it at a high rate of speed, and it'll do the same thing as swirling it like that. And putting it on a flat surface like this is a lot easier to control. Now, if you're skilled enough to be able to do this in your hand, then by all means do it. I found I have more control doing it this way, and you can really get aggressive with it. Okay, same thing, you want to smell. At this point, you're going to see the heavier legs because they just show up better with a red wine glass. Once again, it's nothing to do with the quality of the wine. It's just a byproduct of the wine. Okay, what are we trying to smell here? Definitely I get some fruit, of course. It could be maybe a little blackberry, light blackberry, maybe some strawberry notes in this one. Once again, all our palates are different. You may pick up things that I don't have, or I'm not picking up, so that's kind of what makes it fun. So, go ahead and taste, and remember, 2 or 3 very small tastes because you still have Pinot Noir on your palate. And sometimes it helps to actually chew your wine. Put the wine in your mouth, move it around, and then kind of chew it. You're experiencing the full flavor of the wine. You're getting more of that flavor distributed throughout your mouth. Moving on to our next wine, which is Dolcetto. Now don't let the name fool you. Dolcetto is actually the name of the grape. And most of us know that dolce means sweet. This is a dry wine, which means that during fermentation, all of the sugar has been converted to alcohol by the yeast. You can never get rid of all the sugar, but there's less than 1/10 of 1 gram of sugar per liter, so we call it no sugar involved. So anyway, back to the name Dolcetto. Dolcetto is actually the name of the grape. This grape originated in the Piedmont area of Italy. Very popular there. It's the 2nd or 3rd most popular grape grown in Italy. But here in Napa, out of the 500 plus wineries, only 2 other wineries produce a Dolcetto besides us. And once again, it is estate grown, which means estate grown means it's grown on our property. Same process. Now you notice as you pour this Dolcetto that it is darker. And as I looked at the label, I just realized, let's talk a little bit about the labels. So there's years, there's the name of the grape, and there's the location, Napa Valley. So there's all kind of regulations on those labels. The year refers to the year that the grapes were grown, not when the wine was bottled. And that's very important because, as I like to say, there's no bad years here in Napa, but we do have years that are better than other ones. The location, Napa Valley, that means that at least 80% of those grapes have to come from Napa Valley, or you're not allowed to put that name on there. The Chardonnay, the name of the grape, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Merlot. By the way, those are all names of grapes. There's hundreds of varieties of grapes out there. So once again, law requires if you're going to put the name of the grape on the label, you have to have at least 75% of that grape in the bottle. All of ours are 100% varietal. There's nothing wrong with a red wine blend at all. It's just something that the Bartolucci family has been doing for as long as they've been making wine, is making 100% varietal and no blends. So we've swirled it, remember, at least 10 seconds. Get the air added to it, give it a smell, make sure it's good, and taste. We're getting a little bit more tannic. We're getting a little richer flavor. As you remember to take the 2 or 3 sips, as you get on your 3rd sip, you'll start picking up notes of ripe plum and even some maybe a black cherry flavor. This is a very fruit-forward wine. What I mean by that is, just like it sounds, the fruit really comes out. It has a smooth finish, which means after you finish tasting the wine, you don't have a harshness on your palate. It's smooth and gentle going down as well. So also in the menu, you'll notice different pairings. Once again, it's up to you what you want to pair your wine with. The things we put on our menu are strictly suggestions, things that we like. But you may find something that, I had Dolcetto once with chocolate chips, but I thought was going to be a big mistake, and I loved it. So you never know. Now on to the Cabernet Sauvignon. So Cab is king, as we say in Napa. It is the most popular grape grown here in Napa Valley, and it's also most expensive. And what I mean by expensive is that since it is the most sought out grape in Napa, it just costs more to occupy your property with that particular grape. Speaking of property here in Napa, prime area for growing Cabernet Sauvignon can start at $250,000 per acre and go up to $750,000 depending on the locations. Okay, now with the Cab, we're going to do a 2-part tasting. So I want you to go ahead and do what we've been doing. Put a little bit in, swirl it, taste it. Remember, swirl it for 10 seconds. So this time, you're probably wondering what the salt was for. What I want you to do differently, I want you to really think about what this Cabernet tastes like. And by that, I mean, try to determine the dominant features. Are you picking up fruit? Are you getting the tannins? Remember, the tannins are the dry sensation on your tongue. Are you getting acid? So acid usually makes your sides of your mouth water. So you have tannins on the tongue, acids on the side. And are you picking up some alcohol? Even though all of our wines are pretty much the same alcohol content, around 13.9, it may seem a little bigger because of the higher tannins in the Cabernet Sauvignon. Okay, so go ahead and taste it and think about what it tastes like. We're going to do 2 or 3 very small tastings. So the reason I'm doing this is I used to teach a wine and food pairing course. And my opening statement for the course was wine was never a beverage to be intended to just enjoy on its own. It was always intended to go with meals, even back in biblical times. So what happens when you pair your wine with food, you actually, in my opinion, you get a much more enjoyment from the wine than you do with the food. And the reason I'm using salt is because if you've ever prepared your food, fish, chicken, lamb, pork, beef, whatever you're preparing, if you don't add a little seasoning, primarily a little salt, your food tastes really bland. But something kind of magical happens when you add that salt to your food and then you have the wine with it. And what's going to happen is that salt, that little bit of salt, now if you don't want to do the salt, have a piece of cheese, have some salty crackers, maybe some olives, anything like that. So what I want you to do is take a little salt, like you're going to do a tequila shot. The only reason I do that is because it's probably the cleanest part of your hand. So put a little salt on your hand and put it on your tongue. So go ahead, pretend like you're having a bite of food. Put the salt on your tongue, swallow it, make sure you can taste the salt. Now if you can taste the salt, we're ready to taste the wine again. If you can't taste the salt, put a little bit more or take another bite of that cheese. So this time do the same thing. Taste the wine again, even the first sip. Now you've already adjusted your palate with the 2 or 3 sips before, so you don't need a two or three. But now just taste it. So what you're going to notice after you've had that little bit of salt, the tannins are going to get soft, the acid's going to go away, and you're actually going to taste more of the wine. The fruit is going to come up, and it's also going to get milder and softer and easier to drink. See what I mean? That's it for our 5 wine tasting. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any question at all, my name is Bob. You can send me an email, bob@madonnaestate.com. You can call me at 707-255-8864, and I'll be glad to discuss any of this with you over the phone or email, whatever you'd like to do. So have fun tasting your wine, and come back and see us again.